I'm working with a team from 1991 about this subject. These are the people who are working with me for nowadays. Some of them started in 1996, and we have tens of peer-reviewed publications with them. Others are very recent, but we are gathering a very good team for this very important problem. If you look at the Dead Sea nowadays, you will see the Lisan area, for example, in the Dead Sea, it has this shape. You have here industrial dikes and founds for the Arab Potash Company. All these are built on new land which emerged after the retreat of the Dead Sea, which has only one reason, which is the lowering of the water in the Dead Sea. The water budget of the Dead Sea is nowadays rather disturbed. It's disturbed, in fact, from the 1960s and on, because many of the water that used to come to the Dead Sea is not coming anymore. The main thing is the Dead Sea is the Jordan River, which was dethroned, and also some of the dams and the industrial work that's taking place in that area, which is lowering the quantity of water which is coming to the Dead Sea. So this is the Dead Sea in 2015, and here we can see the Dead Sea in 1963, how it used to be. In fact, I will try to convince you that the Dead Sea retreated a lot. This is the GPS track of one of our field visits to the Dead Sea. We left Amman and worked in the area of the Lisan, which is here. If we put the GPS track on, which took place in 2005, on a satellite image of the year 1987, you will see that some of the places, here you have roads nowadays, here in this area. More dramatic is this. If we put the GPS track of 2005 on the satellite map of 1973, you will have an idea how much the Dead Sea retreated. In fact, it lost about a third of its surface with new lands emerging. These are very fragile lands that must be dealt with very precautiously, as we will see. Just also to emphasize that, everybody, most of you know the Mujib bridge here. The water used to be at this level in the 50s. So the whole bridge is underwater, in fact. It used to be underwater in the 50s. So this is me here, and this is where the water used to be in the 1950s. If you are not convinced, here is the picture showing the Dead Sea in the 1950s and the Mujib Dam in the Mujib area in the years 2000. In fact, the shore in the 1960s used to be here. All these are new lands nowadays. And as I said, they are rather fragile. In fact, everybody knows that the Dead Sea used to be the lowest point on Earth, the lowest even water level on Earth. When it is going lower, it will try to, water will come from Jordan and from Palestine also to try and compensate for the water which is lost. So soft water will come and will go through formations that have salt. Salt will dissolve, and you will have cavities in the base of the salt that is dissolved. Because we are losing nowadays about 400 million cubic meters of soft water coming from Jordan and from also Palestine, the other side, to the Dead Sea, just to try to compensate the 1.3 billion cubic meters that is lost because of the loss of the Jordan River, and also what is retained by the dams from all the countries that are around the Dead Sea. 400 cubic meters are about 4 times the project of DC water, which is very important for Jordan. The shore used to be in 1990 here, and it is in 2016 on the other side. Of course, we can give other examples very quickly. The whole area of the Holiday Inn Hotel used to be, in fact, underwater in the 1967 border of the Dead Sea, as you can see. Nowadays, it's 2017, it's here. I will go very quickly on this. Just to summarize, this is the situation of the Dead Sea. In fact, it used to be about 1,000 square kilometers in surface. Nowadays, it's about 2/3 of that. The water declined in 52 years, 37 meters at least. But it used to fluctuate in the last 260 years before the 1960s, about 10 meters only. Nowadays, the Dead Sea is lowering with a rate of about 1.4 meters a year. This is 14,000 times more than what is normally scientifically known as to be the normal fluctuations without having environmental consequences. It's 1 millimeter every 10 years. Now we have 1.4 meters a year in the Dead Sea. So we will have some environmental consequences, as we can see. In fact, this is the shore of the Dead Sea, and it used to be, the level in the 1960s used to be here. We know in geology what happens when the water level declines. Here, it's good, no problem. Topography is with the water level is okay. For any reason the water level comes down, you will have to start having sinkholes and also some cavities, as you can see here. Yeah. These are sinkholes. These are tunnels and cavities because of the lowering of the water level. If this aggravates, or the situation is aggravated, you can see that the water level is coming here, and you will have an aggravation also of the proliferation of tunnels and also sinkholes. This is the real case of the Dead Sea area. You can see what is theoretically seen here. You can see it in the Dead Sea area here. And you have sinkholes. This is a sinkhole 1992 in the Lisan area of the Dead Sea. And as you can see, it took the whole road with it. Anyway, a little bit of hope. Some of our sinkholes are so romantic. This is in 2005. But anyway, in 10 years' time, you will see how it became. Same thing, but anyway, a little bit more bigger. In the years 2000, we started having real problem with sinkholes. And these are sinkholes that tell us that in 6 months' time, you can have an area obliterated with sinkholes as this. This is in Ghor Haditha area of the Dead Sea. The sinkholes are known in the world. We have many famous examples. 24 February 2007, you have this in Guatemala, a catastrophic one in Guatemala. Florida is very famous with this. And what's important here to notice is it's 150 meters long, 40 meters wide, 20 meters deep. It formed without warning in a matter of minutes. This is in Florida. Also in Florida, more recent, this Walt Disney Resort in 2013, it collapsed because of a sinkhole in its area. It's very known, and if you put on the internet, Walt Disney Resort, Florida, 2013, you will see this. Dozens of guests at the Florida Resort near Walt Disney World were evacuated late Sunday. They were evacuated because the security officer was very intelligent, and he didn't wait for any orders from anybody. He just ordered the people to go out, and when they went out, they were saved. It's important to have this kind of people in areas that are threatened with this kind of problems. As I said, all what I want to do is awareness, because if we are aware of the problems, we can resist them better, and we can deal with the problems better. Because we are very vulnerable. If we are, even we can be very nice like this, but he is very vulnerable, so the very high risk also. Any small problem he will disappear. But we would like to be more aware and ready, and to be like this after the information that I'm going to give to you. So as to have to take the Dead Sea seriously, and to be a little bit aware of the problems. I will start my talk now. In fact, this is the little story of our research in this area. I started in 1991 by a geophysical survey here in Ghor Haditha, 300 meters by 600 meters. We surveyed with gravimetry. We measured the acceleration of gravity just to try and detect in this area if there are any voids, any cavities. And we found about 30 cavities in this area. After that, there's a long process using radar interferometry, measuring the deformations, the very tiny deformations that are taking place in wide areas, and then trying to conclude about the problems in the future that are going to take place based on this kind of approaches. With the team from Italy, from Switzerland, from Belgium particularly, and also from Jordan. In 1991, I used to go to this area of Ghor Haditha and to detect things like this. You see, it's mild, no problems. But in 1995, it was like this. The evolution in 1998, as you can see, the phenomenon is dynamic, and it's widening. In 2004, the road disappeared here. It's the same crack that I used to monitor in 1991. Nowadays, if you go there, you will see this kind of things in Ghor Haditha area, which is about 50 kilometers from here. Just a little story. In 1991, I used to put my car here and to go to monitor this almost every week. What is happening here in this area? And I used to think that this is a very safe place for my car. September 1994, the road was closed. Why? Because there was a sinkhole opened here, just in the place where I used to put my car. Here is a comparative photography, the car, and the sinkhole is here. If we come and try to look closely to this sinkhole, it's like this. In fact, it's 10 meters deep, and it has this shape. And it has a brother or a sister just beside it, and it's 19 meters up to the level of the water here. The depth of this is 19 meters, which means it's a 4 or 5 story building. And this is from our geophysical survey in 1994 with the gravimeter here in Ghor Haditha. The result is like that. All these places show lack of mass under them, which means that there might be cavities under them. We predicted that cavities would take place in these areas with time. At that time, 1997, I issued this warning. Technical problem. So this is my warning and how it was received by the people of the media, in particular, these people. They said that this is a fake study, and it is just because we want the farmers to flee and to make these areas touristic areas, etc. And they ask themselves whether if it is it can be read by the people who understand Arabic. It's a great catastrophe that we are dealing with fake science. This was in 1997. And we will see how fake it was when we see the problems that are taking place. The collapse of the Social Security touristic station in 1999. This one. Then 2 years later. After that, our survey, some other colleagues from the University of Yarmouk went and made a map of the sinkholes that took place really 4 years after our study. They found that they were here. So there is a small correlation between what we detected as cavities and what happened 4 years later. Other problems, a donkey and a boy fell into a well, as they say, beer. In fact, it's not a well, it's a sinkhole, just as we can see here in this picture. of the civil defense, Jordanian civil defense, when they saved the donkey and the child. After that, in the year 2000, there was a dike. It's an industrial dike, 12 kilometers long dike, which collapsed after its building of 3 months after its inauguration in the Dead Sea area and the Lisan area. In fact, what I put here is just to say, you can ask anybody you want, but they're not going to tell you that it's the sinkholes that are in the foundations of this dam or dike that caused its collapse. Here is the area before 10 days, or 12 days before the collapse. This is the dike 19, and it's the 12-kilometer here dike which retained it from the Dead Sea. 55 million cubic meters of pre-pumped water from the Dead Sea into this. Went to the Dead Sea later in about 1 hour on the 22nd of March 2000. As you can see here, it's empty without water because of the collapse of this area. So the study wasn't fake. It is a real problem. And nowadays, I would like to ask you to fasten your seatbelts because I'm going to convince you that the problems are real. Here is a small example or model. This very nice house. You have a very nice flowers here and dead one here. Why it's dead? Because in fact there is no soil under it. It's empty. And what's going to happen? This is going to collapse, as we will see later. This is in Ghor Haditha, the area which the journalists say or the press said that it is safe, etc. And in May 2007. 6 months later, the same time, just to know it, you have some cracks here, and some subsidence here in the same time, which is May 2007. Few months later, it started collapsing as almost predicted. A year later, half of the house was already gone. So in May 2008, it used to be like this. You have here toilets, the house, another house, etc. A year later, less than a year later, this is the situation, how it became. Here is the toilet, the WC, very important sometimes there. And all the houses around, nothing, bah. And also some sinkholes, which are about 25 meters deep in that area. This is the nice flowers here, and what stayed from that house. This is me, and 25 meters just in front of that house, which happened in a matter of a year after the first survey of that house. 2009, the BBC came and was interested about that, and they gave me the title, one of the first people who دقوا ناقوس الخطر, who said that it's dangerous. In fact, it's dangerous, and every time I see this, I think that I was really very courageous to walk in this kind of areas, because few weeks later, the area, this is the house, by the way, and here what I showed you as sinkholes, and these are all the network of sinkholes that took place in a very short matter of time. 2012, the same area. 2012 also. 2013, as you can see, it's becoming badlands. 2013. Let's return back to Sueme 1999. The collapse of the Social Security touristic station in Sueme, as you can see. A governmental committee was formed and said that it is because of the earthquake of Turkey. Turks are really innocent. No problem with that. I'm absolutely sure. Because, by the way, I'm a seismologist, first of all. So I can say that no earthquake in Turkey can make this kind of thing. Anyway, they decided to remove this station and build another one at its place. They didn't think why it collapsed, whether it's good to do it or not. Anyway, the area, after analyzing it, is full of potential problems for the future. Here is the area before the building of many things in it. After that, the decision gave what is known now as the Holiday Inn, as you can see. We tried to follow. This is the Holiday Inn while it was being built in May 2007. In May 2008, everything is okay and finished. May 2009, some problems are going in that direction. And here also, with sinkhole, cavity, كاملة الدسم, هون. Just near to that. An accident later, we will, as we can see, this kind of machines was absolutely lost, and we didn't find anything of it when it collapsed into the sea, as we will see. 2009 also, this thing here. And 2012, it collapsed, absolutely, as you can see here. And here what? هاي الجرافة، هاي اللي ضل منها. هذا الدخون بتاعها. So this is the loader, and what? As you can see, I think it cannot swim. 2013 is still there. It's safe. I can't say no. But it's costing very much. As you can see here, they are not, they try to build some approximate things to protect it. But in fact, after that, they found that they must do it more seriously. And I hope that all the structures will be done as seriously as that. This is in 2012, 2012 also, 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2015. This is the case nowadays in this area, which is protected from the water by this very solid structure. It needs some complementary studies, just to be sure that there are no cavities in some areas under us in the future. We can do that. Other hotels, the Movenpick, 5 stars hotel. You see these things. You will see it in all the structures in this area. I went specially to the Grand East because it is one of the hotels that I didn't monitor. And when I did my monitoring today, I found the same thing. In all the structures, if you go to the shore, you will see this kind of abnormal things. Very recent in August 2017. مش سامعين؟ اوكي تكرم. فكرت انا صوتي عالي، فكر حالي بالجامعة. One of the latest accidents was the partial collapse of one of the bridges on the highway of the Dead Sea. As you can see, one of the pillars fell down. It was closed partially, as you can see like that. And they made a detour around it to try to deal with the situation. One of my last visits, or most recent visits, on October 14th, this is in Ghor Haditha area once more, very safe place. 2 days or a week later, part of it also collapsed, as you can see. Here is a bridge which was very well done in 2012. Just have a look on its structure. Huge work was done to try and to protect this bridge. But 5 years later, I will show you the situation nowadays. If you are going on that bridge, you are not going to see anything. It's all under it that can be seen like that. The bridge is there. And this is the situation nowadays. And I'm worried about this bridge. really. And I think that it's a matter of weeks to 2 years maximum that there will be a problem on this bridge. If nothing is done, of course. I will go very quickly now. Other projects, mega projects, billions of money. And sometimes children brought in this area, they are protected by one of the قديسين في منطقتنا. This one. Let's return back to Ghor Haditha, 2005. And may I remind you that I issued a warning in 1997. It was on the 13th of July, 1997. I remember it very well because on the 14th of July, I was at the French embassy for their Independence Day. The vice president of the university said to me, "You are frightening people." So a factory was inaugurated by His Majesty King Hussein, the late, Allah yarhamu, on the 29th of December 1997, which means 6 months after my warning. And it gave this company, شركة النميرة للأملاح المختلطة والطين. This is in 2008. 2009, the problems started arriving to it. This is in 2008. You can detect some small subsidence here and sometimes small cracks. But a year later, look at the same place, exactly 1 year later, it is like that. 2008, 2008, 2009, the same place. 2009 and 2012. There used to be a factory here in that area. And it was removed 30 kilometers to the south after 2009. What to do? Now what we can do, after thinking of the geophysics, I made that survey on 1994. It took 6 months to make 300 meters by 600 meters. I need 250 years to complete the Dead Sea. This is not a good way to do things. But nowadays we can, with new technologies, with what's called radar interferometry, can detect the very tiny deformations in a very wide area. And this is the main core of what I call the early warning system we would like to do to cover the whole area of the Dead Sea for the purpose of classifying the area into 3 classes. One of them, no deformations at all from 1992, the start of this kind of techniques. If it's stable from 1992 up to now, you can do whatever you like in it. Invest, build in normal engineering practices, no problem. Other class is you have some problems, so you have to be careful about the engineering practices you practice. Don't try to design the area with your ideas for today. Try to design it just to take into consideration what's going to take place in the next 20 years. And a third class, unfortunately, it's better to leave it alone. Don't try to resist nature. We managed, and this is the European Space Agency website in 2002. They acknowledged that we were able to detect precursory deformations of the dike that collapsed in the year 2000. The results of our research mentioned or showed that this area is one of the worst areas to put a dike in it because it's an active subsidence and you have also lack of mass under it. The gravimetry or the gravimetry measures are showing negative gravity anomalies, which means that you have a lack of mass under it. And also the interferometry shows that you have subsidence in this area. This is the truth without any maquillage. And we are, myself and my colleagues are trying to provoke the awareness of everybody here in Europe about these areas. This is one of the lectures of my colleague, Dr. Damien Clousson from Belgium, with whom I'm working from 1996 up to now. This is the dike 18, in fact, just the neighbor of the dike 19. We detected this, these cracks in it, which means that it is going to have some problems in the future. The Arab Potash Company made the necessary things, and they repaired it with a tender worth $16 million. 2012, we told them that we detected something. It's not very clear maybe here because of the lights, but it's a circular structure, which is a little bit disturbing here, inside the dike. And when trying to look more seriously on it, the deformations are going outside this area, which means that the dike itself is concerned with this kind of deformations that are taking place. They reacted and they amputated this part of the dike, which means that they avoided a major problem. Nowadays, for the area of the Lisan area in the Dead Sea, we have a database of 213,000 points. Every one of them has 60 samples of radar images or images during 18 years. To print them, you need about 40,000 pages. But what is the usefulness of this? If you want to make any investment in an area like this, we can pick it here and show you how it deformed during the last about 20 years. So this area, for example, is not suitable for building a lot of things here, but other areas may show you something like that, so you can build in it whatever you want. We are following this very closely with time up to 2014 and also up to 2016 with all the available satellite images that we can get freely. We cannot afford to pay them for the moment because we are supported with nothing, with almost nothing. So we try to seek the European Union for supporting a project for us during 3 years. We called it Megiddo. Jordan, Belgium, Spain, and France. 2.5 million euros for 3 years. We were told that your project was an excellent one. It was ranked 6 out of 130 competitors. It was placed in reserve. They supported the first 5 and just stopped at the level of our project. And they said, we invite the Jordanian authorities to express their interest in the project Megiddo to the European Commission and discuss the way to find additional funds. Nobody discussed anything and nobody found any other funds. Now some extra balls, I'm finishing. You are going to ask me about the Red Dead Canal. So, Allah yarhamu Dhafir al-Alam, which was the Jordanian Minister of Water, he gave this declaration in 2008, just before he died. مشروع قناة البحرين إقليمي مشترك يزود المملكة بحوالي 750 مليون متر مكعب هون في غلطة بسيطة ومن المقترح أن يبدأ التنفيذ عام 2013 والإنجاز عام 2020 لكن بصفتي قديش كان يعني عنده vision and he was really a visioneer. كنت منسق المشروع سابقا ورئيس اللجنة التوجيهية المكونة من الأردن وفلسطين وإسرائيل. لست متفائلا بالجدول الزمني المقرر لما لمسته من الأطراف المعنية والبنك الدولي والدول الممولة، وأعتقد أنه لن يتم تنفيذ المشروع إلا بعد 30 عاما في حال توفرت النية الحسنة والاهتمام من تلك الأطراف. He is very right. Okay, this is our late water minister who was the head of the steering committee for this project, and he said that he declared this in 2008. In 2013 we will begin, and in 2020 it will be finished. Nothing begun, and nothing, of course, is finished. But he said at that time that I am not very optimistic about the schedule of this project, and I think that it will need 30 years to realize if we have goodwill from everybody, which is not really very guaranteed in this area in particular. Of course. I will ask you, our nowadays Minister of Water declared to the University of Jordan at its website the following: we need $11 billion to make the Red Dead Canal, and we need 11 billion years to get there. Nowadays, they are trying to make a mini project, which means that it will bring about 200 million cubic meters. This is not enough. And it's a very good project for other things, for electricity, for water, for politics, for anything. It's an excellent one. But as a project that's going to save the Dead Sea, no, unfortunately. So we proposed an early warning system. And we see that we tell the people who are in charge, with our early warning system, you will be like this. Without it, you may be like this in the future. And I hope, I pray to God, that we are not going to be like this in the year 2025. أشكر شركة البوتاس who supported us with 25,000 GDs. ما عرفنا نحصل عليهم بالشكل المناسب يعني نتيجة مشاكل إدارية. وشكرا لحسن استماعكم. Thank you very much for your attention.
I'm wondering if these sinkholes, right, are forming to the northern part of the Dead Sea. Do we have any problem in the future in Al-Kafrin, South Shuna, Rama, baptism sites? We don't have.
The other side, the problems used to be more problematic up to the year 2007, I think, as I know from the publications and from the internet. But from the year 2007, I think that there was something changed in the situation, and the proliferation of these sinkholes accelerated in our area. As far as the Kafrin and other places are, it's not expected to be so. Nowadays, what we see, it's just west of the road, mainly. Very few to the east of the road. But it concerns what used to be the Dead Sea. And the Kafrin didn't used to be the Dead Sea. See?
Just one question. Are these sinkholes also happening in the other side of the Dead Sea?
أعمل إعادة Yes. Yes. And
more so.
The numbers are more to the other side. We evaluate that the number of sinkholes now about 6,000. About 1,000 of them is in.
Okay, two questions. A follow-up to his questions. Are they doing anything about it on the other side of the Dead Sea? The other question, would the Red Dead Canal reverse the damage that was done already if it was realized?
Well, nothing will reverse the damage, but it will limit it. If it's done in the full scale and after a good feasibility study and after dealing with potential other problems that may arise from it. For the other side, they used to put cement مسلح. But nowadays, nobody can do that because one of these sinkholes now can take about 1,000 big truck of things inside it. You cannot. When I was asked about this in one of the lectures in Paris, and I said that we don't have enough water to make الاسمنت المسلح.
Thank you. I'm Jude, a student at Jordan University of Science and Technology. I just want to make sure of one thing. Even though costly hard structures even though with hard structures, the sinkholes can be reformed?
I didn't understand the question very well. You mean, what do you mean by hard structures?
Exactly.
Concrete.
Concrete.
No, they used to reopen 6 months later. In fact, you have families outside. And all the material you put is going its way with a little bit of water when the cavity is becoming bigger. It's an unstable area. So, and they used to close them even in Jordan. it's tens of meters only. It has nothing to do with earthquakes.
So we don't have a serious solution.
What is the solution? For some areas, you have to avoid these areas. Just like, for example, the Numeira factory, it's better to avoid this area. Study your areas very well. See where you have stable lands and put your investments and projects. You are okay. If not, you will be called to lose a lot of money, at least.
Will this be done in proximity with the sea or might extend?
No, I said that it's I think it will be limited only to the area which used to be the Dead Sea.
And where the water has subsided.
But for the other areas, it will be very minor. This is my evaluation. But anyway, this is kind of problem exists also in many other areas. For example, in Amman you have some cavities, but it's not in salt, and it formed in thousands of years. There you need a few months to make a cavity. In other places, you need much more time for that.
Two questions. In the best case scenario, so if all the political, the logistic, the financial situation was perfect, how much would that help? Would it raise the level of the Dead Sea at all? My understanding was if it maintained it, that nothing is going to be able to nothing will be able to raise the level of the Dead Sea again, even in the best case scenario. And in the worst case scenario, if none of this happens, what is the worst case scenario? What is the environmental damage that we're looking at in nothing, in 20 years, if this doesn't happen?
The worst case scenario, I don't like to think of it. It will be problematic.
It might be the only thing that makes us
put
everything else.
The road will disappear. Some of the hotels may be very much affected. This is the worst case scenario. But the Dead Sea is not going to appear completely, even in 50 years' time.
And industry, potash, phosphate.
They will be affected, but I can't give a full-scale study to answer just a small question. But in the best case scenario, we have to think of this. We need at least 25 years before starting to see any improvement in the situation, because these problems had to mature. In 30 years' time, they cannot be solved just if we bring enough water to make the Dead Sea once again as it used to be. And it's not in our interest, in fact, because we will lose all the hotels here.
So we just want to maintain. We hope now to maintain.
I think the solution is monitoring, detecting the problems before they arise, and trying to solve the problem before they provoke great losses, especially in Europe.
Thank you, Professor. 10 years after trying to secure financing since 2006, we are in 2017, we've had 7-8 government changes. And we have ongoing programs with the EU in terms of helping Jordan. What was done in that regard? And I don't remember this coming up in any of the recent years.
In 2011, I met with and he was a little bit convinced and told me that we are going to make a meeting with the whole interested ministers. 2 weeks later, the government changed and nothing happened. But there was an American consultant with him. And he asked me to come to the United States and see them in California. And I did that on the 12th of May 2011 to hold this conference. And in that occasion, I knew that this company in particular was trying to think of the whole area of Wadi Araba to put $45 billion up to the year 2050 and bring development in this area. So we discussed that with them, and this is the closest area we go to getting funds, except for the 25,000 GDs from the Arab Potash Company. Our regulations prevented us from using them at the university. We got 25,000 GDs, they told us you have 5,000 and the university will have 20,000. You see?
Sorry, and even 2011, Doctor or Professor, sorry. I don't think it's enough. Again, we are 6 years on, and really should have access to the Minister of Planning. Imad Fakhoury was up there yesterday, Minister of Public Works and Housing, given the status of these bridges that people, thousands of people use every day. thank you for the lecture, but this is really a big alarm that shouldn't be just finished.
The government should pick up on it. We thank the Professor.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
I
I'm
was
saying.
waiting for somebody like you to.
Ardi potash.
It's very limited يعني بدنا نسوي. هذا شو اسمه معين بتمر عليه ما بتشوف شيء بس انت بدك تشوف.
I may not think that, I give it to the gentleman. Are the potash companies on both sides of the Dead Sea echoes? Do they, because they are, I mean, the depletion of the Dead Sea, do they play a role in that or no? This is this politics?
It's a small percentage.
It's a small percentage.
It's something like, you know, it depends upon your point of view. A month ago, I saw an article on an Israeli website. One of the Israeli women said that why we are giving Jordan 50 million cubic meters of water, because this is causing the Dead Sea problem. They think that this causes the Dead Sea problems. You see? So if you think that the Arab Potash Company or the Israeli works, it is about 30% of the. But the other problem is the need for water, in fact, for the whole region. We cannot neglect. We cannot say that we are going to bring the Jordan River back and prevent the people from Amman and from other places to drink because we would like to save the Dead Sea. We have to think bigger than that. And
I just want to say this. I think what I understood was the actual phosphate, the evaporating, the deliberate evaporating of water must add to the problem.
about 30%. Maybe. Yes. I didn't mention that السؤال. It's about 30%. 30% of the problem. But the problem started before that. And the problem, even if we prevent them from doing that, we will do harm to our economy and they will do harm to their economies, and we are not going to solve the problem.
I have the mic, so I think. Yes. Actually, my name is Ali Al Sawal. I am a researcher at the University of Jordan. Actually, I have two questions. The first one is that, as far as I know, here in Jordan, when we want to build, for example, or plan for a building, we get the permission from the Royal Scientific Society for a measurement of the soil. Okay, so we noticed actually a boom in buildings for hotels. I noticed that really in the last 5 years around Dead Sea. So I wonder, I mean, Dead Sea shouldn't be only sufficient to make a soil test, but also, geological tests also should be also taken into consideration. I mean, I wonder about that. I mean, how hotels, which cost a lot of money, can be built without such standards, without such permissions. The first one. Second one about Dirt Red project. I mean, as of my work as a researcher at the University of Jordan, I am involved in the study and the report. Actually, I realized that, and I told that to the head of the Sultan Wadi al-Ordun, Jordan Valley Authority, that if before starting this project, there should be at least 10 years of modeling study. I mean, modeling now is very important, especially in geology. And if you want to connect the red with dead, you should make modeling, simulation, and study for 10 years before you start such projects, because this might make a negative impact on the whole area. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
This is a very specialized question. I don't think that the Royal Scientific Society is responsible about this. In fact, it's the responsibility of the Engineers Association. In Jordan, we have a general problem. We would like the papers to be in good shape. If you have the signature, you can do whatever you want. We don't believe, and as a geophysicist, I know that, I don't believe in even in the foundation test that they make. If they make a foundation test for example, 1,000 square meters and making 3 holes, you cannot know whether there is a cavity between these 3 holes. So there must be more serious studies in some sensitive areas, but before of that, don't forget that I proposed an early warning system, which means that I would like to classify the areas in areas where you have to intensify your studies and be very sure about them, and areas where you can do whatever you want, even the Jordanian way. It will work.
My name is Tala Sharqawi. I'm a student at the American University of Madaba. My question is about the Red Sea Dead Sea project or canal. In terms of the ecological impact that the project would have on the area of the Dead Sea, I'm pretty sure that it has been taken into consideration, but what are the major points that could affect the area?
The answer is then the World Bank report about that, which costed $17.7 million. And they presented a report about it. They were asked why you don't have a summary for the report. They said there were no funds for the summary. So the answer is in their report. I cannot give you the results of their study of 5 years and $17 million. Just I don't know what is the exact impact of that. It needs a multidisciplinary approach of many people, not only a seismologist or a geologist. It needs a lot of people to do very seriously to give you a serious answer. Okay, after that.
Okay, sorry, question. Quick question. So if we don't really know the negatives and the positives of the project, how can we take a decision towards implementing or not?
Maybe it's known for some circles, because there was a project which costed $17.7 million to answer this question. And I'm not aware of all the studies that were done in this particular aspect. But we were not consulted about that. Doctor?
I'm Sheila Forbes from Scotland, and I came in a bit late there, so I think I missed something. I'd like to know, you showed a diagram there and it said like subsidence everywhere. Why has that happened? And why don't you just leave it if it's going to cost so much? You know, if it's inevitable, something's going to happen, something awful.
Well, subsidence is not everywhere. Subsidence is there where you have some salt layers in some areas that not very well.
Why did that happen in the beginning?
Why did?
Is it just nature?
It's not only nature. It's in fact induced. It's a result of the meddling of man with nature without considering the consequences. The area used to be in a very good equilibrium for hundreds of years, but something intervened. We took the whole water that used to come to the Dead Sea, and nowadays we are paying the price. The Dead Sea used to receive 1.3 billion cubic meters from the River Jordan, and the River Jordan exists no more. Whenever you have a drastic change on the level of water, whether it's induced or natural, you will have this kind of problems. You have subsidence problems in Paris, Vincennes. And you have subsidence problems in China. You have 10,000 sinkholes in China, in some areas of China. It's a worldwide problem.
Well, the other thing is, have you thought about approaching the royal family here?
Pardon?
Have you thought about approaching the royal family? They seem to be fairly supportive of Jordan.
They support Jordan indeed, but you know, why I have never been invited. So, and we have a very honorable members of the royal family staying here, and this is the first occasion for that, and I'm really very optimistic about this. You know, I know if they know the whole problem, they will take measures.
Thank you very much for your lecture. Actually, your lecture impressed me very much, and I would place your lecture number 1 during the 2 days of the what I heard here.
It's my record
because it
for the
is
last 10 years.
Scientific lecture, and the lecture which show how science can really affect policymakers and society. Thank you very much. Also, your specific lecture raised the question of the ignorance, of the corruption, and many other things. It is not related only to the place here. I am foreigner, I can tell, but on many other places. You know, for example, such a scientist, seismologist as Ambrasey and Bilham, who published in Nature paper related about the earthquakes and disasters, and how much disasters occur in the country with the really high indexes of these three things which I mentioned. But this is something outside of science. I enjoyed very much your scientific part of the lecture because it was related to salt. Salt, it is something which I studied for many years, and Tzvi Ben Abraham about 15 years ago attracted my attention to this area specifically because of the salt structures, about the salt holes and so on. You mentioned during your lecture about the sinkholes, and that's very important. At the same time, you showed that you predicted some areas or forecasted the areas of the potential subsidence. How much these things, you showed a few sites which coincide, how much actually this knowledge which you time ago already delivered was used? It is close to zero or close to 50%. I'm not talking about the 100%.
Well, I didn't understand the last part of your question, but I
My
understand
last
the whole
part-
atmosphere of your question.
No. Last part of the question is related. How much science which is available is used?
Yeah. Well, the techniques we are using is the most up-to-date possible. We are using the whole kinds of satellites and radar interferometry. I don't agree with many people who want to adapt the problems they face to the techniques they know. I'm a geophysicist, but I don't think that geophysics is useful for such a large-scale problem. It's very dangerous, and it will take a lot of time, and it will be very costly. But I think the best approach here in this subject is to monitor the deformations which took place from the archives that exist. We can study them even if the whole area disappeared, as you can know, and use this kind of information. I'm not with making large-scale geophysical studies to determine how much is the volume of the sinkhole. This is not my interest. I would like to give a general answer, very quick and very practical, to try and save us from the potential problems around the Dead Sea, especially the Jordanian investments. And in my Arabic lectures, I used to call them نحو استيعاب واستدامة نعمة البحر الميت في الأردن. And I think that the Dead Sea is a blessing for the area, economically, religiously, all these kinds. And we would like to save it for us and for humanity, if possible. And part of saving it is trying to save the structures and the infrastructures that are being built in it. If we have any major problem in this will create something that will be not appealing for the area, you see? So you are from the team of Ben Abraham? No.
Okay. I am Secretary General of International Union of Geophysics and Geophysicists by my profession. That's why I enjoyed very much, definitely, your talk.
Okay, and I'm not, I wasn't talking geophysics, in fact, but the start was geophysics, which is my specialty.
So what is our major problem? Is it finance or ignoring?
Many people, the problems are not known, are not widely known. You know, all of you heard maybe about the problems of the Dead Sea. Did you ever imagine that they are at this scale? Any one of you?
Not actually, no.
Think that you used to be at this scale? So this is why we are trying to create the awareness necessary to deal with the problem. One of the first steps to solve any problem is to know that there is a problem or to acknowledge it.
So ignorance is the answer?
Ignorance, you can call it ignorance, but it may be, ignorance is a very heavy word. Ignorance, but without intention. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, ignoring, but without.
I told that your lecture raised this point of the ignorance, because it's absolutely clear scientific knowledge available today and is not in use.
The government of Japan is ignoring Fukushima.
No, well, they didn't. It was just a very simple issue. It was not. Because if they would ignore these things, they could lose 1 million people. But they lost with the earthquake magnitude 9.1, you know, only 12,000 and only 10% because of earthquakes, others because of the damage due to the tsunami.
You mentioned, by the way, you mentioned
That's
empresses.
perfect
You mentioned empresses in your comments, and I had a discussion with him in 2003. I didn't like his way of trying to bringing into some illegal immigrants from earthquakes into our region. I think that he exaggerated the seismic risk very much in our region. And I had a big discussion with him in the year 2003. We used to be in one project, which is APAME, and this took place in France. So I told him, when he tried to put some of the earthquakes on the Jordan Dead Sea Transform and put them in Tabuk for only one reason, that he was asked by the Saudi Arabia to make a book for them, and to put in the beginning of his book that it's a shame that in a certain sense that we didn't find more earthquakes to record in Saudi Arabia. This wasn't enough reason to bring earthquakes from Jordan and to put them in Saudi Arabia. You see? He's a great man anyway, and Allah yarhamu.
God bless his soul.
A great scientist.
I just want to say something about is it finance or is it ignorance? The title of this whole conference is, I think, Science for Peace, or Science of Peace, something like that. One can't get around the fact that it's a bit of a political hot potato as well. This isn't a project that can be done on its own. It's cross-border. It's Jordan, it's Israel, it's Palestine, and I don't think we should ignore the fact that that's also one of the things that makes it a bit more sensitive. And hopefully, maybe it's one of the projects that'll make everybody work together a bit more, because at the end of the day, it's obviously a disaster. But I don't think it's just ignorance or finance. There are all sorts of logistical, political things that بتعرقل الطريق صح ولا لا in this thing. And I don't want to label it ignorance. Nobody's ignoring it. Everybody knows it's a problem, but then it's the next step. You know, how do you get everybody down at the same? This is Science for Peace. Hopefully this is one of the projects that could make it happen.
لو أحكي معلش بالعربي, it's not ignorance by the meaning, you know, we don't know what the problem is. It's trying to avoid the problem. Nobody, like you said, it's a hot potatoes, and nobody wants to deal with it. Our decision makers are all well educated. You know what's right, what's wrong, but the issue is, why should I bother with it? Let somebody else worry about it. Maybe this is what is going on. Absolutely, I agree with you, but I think this is maybe trying to diagnose what's going on right now. Nobody wants to deal with it because a lot of money is involved, maybe, a lot of investments, a lot of so on. Why should I, as a Minister of Public Works, worry about this and scare the investors from investing in the Dead Sea? No, I just keep quiet until my term is over and then let the next minister worry about it. Maybe, I'm just saying maybe, I'm not.
Give them the advice. If you put 1.5% of the money you are going to invest, so as to make your investment more secure, this is fair. We need $3 million for 3 years.
That's not a whole lot.
And $300,000 every year to keep maintaining that, because we need satellite imageries. Some of them cost 10,000 euros. We cannot afford them. Now we are living on what we can get from the internet freely, and this is not the best way.
That's for the early warning system.
Yeah.
That's to fund the early warning system.
Yeah, of course.
The chemistry of the Red Sea is very different from the chemistry of the Dead Sea. Can we, instead of doing this very expensive project of the Red Dead, can we go back to the Israelis and convince them to get back the water through the Jordan River and let it flow again? I mean, this sounds very stupid, but I think it makes more logic and it's cheaper than building this canal when we know the chemistry is very different and it could affect the Dead Sea. I make you blush?
I can't answer your question. It's not. It's really very difficult to think of that for the moment. It's not as easy as that, but maybe with the availability of solar energy, etc., desalination of water may replace the water that's taken from the River Jordan, and everybody will be okay with
No,
giving
but the
us
brine
back.
of the Red Sea is totally different from the chemistry.
It has its own merits also. If it's going to develop the Wadi Araba area, if it's going to develop the Wadi Araba area and to give us some electricity and
But
some
then you
water.
have a murky Dead Sea. You know, you might as well, you can develop that separately and then you know, try to get back the water since, you know.
Tell the governments and the UN about that.
Yeah.
Geological question. I'm sorry, does anybody else want to ask? You're geophysicists. This is just something I'm interested in. When they talk about the Dead Sea being unstable, they don't just talk about the land, بحذروا الناس and don't swim, you know, people suddenly get sucked under. Is that why they get sucked under? Do sinkholes suddenly sort of develop in the bottom of the sea and it sort of pulls them down? Well, what makes that happen? Why is it dangerous to swim in the Dead Sea because of the whirlpools? Are the sinkholes causing whirlpools? You may.
I would like to answer this in Arabic because it's a very important question. يعني ليش في مشاكل في البحر الميت وفي نعم. مشكلة البحر الميت الأساسية اللي كمان إحنا هذا يعني جزء من الإهمال عندنا في الأردن فيها، في ناس كتير قاعدين بنفقدهم فيه. السبب إنه البحر الميت نفسه ميته لبعض الناس بتعمل حساسية، ملعقتين مي يشربهم الواحد زوره بنتفخ وبتسكر وبينخنق وبموت. آخر من فقدناه في هذا المجال واحد حريف، يعني واحد منقذ، أنقذ 12-13 قبله في الجامعة الأردنية قبل سنتين زمان، لكن مع ذلك لما يشرب له شوية مية بينتفخ وبيموت بهذه الطريقة. بدنا نوعي الناس أكثر من مسألة يرجى الحيطة والحذر عند السباحة في البحر الميت. بعدين ليش كل الأوتيلات اللي هون طلع عليهم بيقولوا إنه لا يوجد منقذ؟ ليش لا يوجد منقذ في أوتيل 5 نجوم؟ ليش ما يعني ليش ما في عندنا برضه خبرة تراكمية إنه لما يصير واحد صار معه شغلة زي هيك ليش إنه نخليه يموت لحاله؟ الدوامات الحوامات في احتمال في محتمل لكن ما بقدر اجاوبك 100% لانه صحيح مش متخيل موضوع انه يعني سينكورز هالقد بتصير. هاي حاله خاصه بتصير ربما انه يعني بدها ناس غير يجاوب عليه، ما بقدر اجاوب. الله يبارك فيك. Other questions؟ نختتم. شكرا لحسن استماعكم وحضوركم، شرفتونا جميعا. بنتي راح تنجن لما اقولها انه